Hey guys, the Dude's Corner here. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to solve multi-commutators. Now all my subscribers will know for quite a little while now I've actually been going through all these different commutator tutorials. Now I've only posted 2 so far, and this is going to be the third one that I'm posting. Now the first one that I posted was how to solve commutators. The second one that I posted was how to solve commutators faster. This tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you how to solve multi-commutators. The other 2 tutorials I will be expecting you to already know how to that you've already seen and understand, because this I'm going to be advancing off of the last one that I've already taught. So check both of those down in the description for if you've not already seen those already, because both those I'm going to need you to already have seen before this tutorial you can actually be able to use or find helpful. Now, of course, if you already understand a lot of the concepts of commutators, then this tutorial can still be helpful for you, just letting you know that as well. But either way, I still would recommend seeing the other 2 if you haven't already. Links in the description. Now, as I'm sure you've already noticed, I'm actually holding a 7x7 here, and this is already going to be a little bit different than my other ones, is that instead of starting with 5x5 and working my way up, I'm starting with 7x7 and working my way down. So this will be working a little bit differently. And the reason for this is because multi-commutators work a little bit differently than regular commutators, or the faster way of solving commutators I taught before. I think the best example for starting would be something like this, how we have these 2 here and these 2 here. Multi-commutators is following up kind of similar to the last example. Instead of having an entire bar that you're swapping, it is specifically 2 in the bar, yet while all the other ones are not swapped. This is going to be very, very helpful for learning how to advance on your centers and solving them faster, especially on larger cubes that you go on. So I'm going to start by demonstrating with the 7x7 on this example here. Now, as I'm sure you can figure if you've already seen the other 2 examples, is you need to start by having them, of course, lined up across from each other like this. Then from here, you're going to want to slice. And then normally what you would do if you were to only solve one of these at a time, so let's just imagine we were only solving this one edge right here. Then we would turn this down, and we would turn this away, and then we would just bring this down from here. And then continuing the process, we would want to turn the front and then finish the commutator. But what if we didn't do that? When we slice this down, if we also slice the one here where the other one is still out, like this, then when we turn the front, make sure we're turning it actually in the right direction. This does matter. And then when we bring this back up, we're replacing these 2 here and here. And then when we turn the front back, we can finish by bringing these sides back up and turning the top like that. Now, once again, if that was fast, I know I'm going through this relatively quickly. And the only reason why is just a reminder, the other 2 tutorials I have already posted, and I am expecting you to already have seen those. So the concept of which moves to turn, I'm already expecting you to know. It's more the slice layers that's a little bit different. Another example would be something like this, how instead of having 1 and 1, you could have, say, like 2 and 1 and then 2 and 1 here. Now, just a reminder, like from the other commutator tutorials that I've done before, you need to make sure you are using the exact same pieces before you can do something like this. So for instance, we have these exact same pieces here and these 2 here. Now these are matching and respectively corresponding with each other. So this will work as for a commutator in this specific case, as these 2 pieces are matching alongside each other. So then from here, we would have to slice, and we can of course turn the front either direction in this specific case due to the fact that this was in the middle. I will get onto the other cases later on. So we would turn the front. And now this 2, we would need to do 2 layers. This one, we would only need to do this one inner one closer toward the center, because this is what this one's already been solved. So we would need to do this one here and replace, and then these 2 down to replace these 2. Then we would turn the front back, turn the middle layer back up to then fix these bars, turn the front back so that now we can fix our centers, and then readjust the front again, just like that. Then of course you can have something like this. Now this is going to be following up very similar to the last example that I showed you. Now there are technically 2 ways of doing this, and I will show you both ways of how you can solve it. And I'm going to first follow up by the first way how I did it in the first example. So it would be by turning these 2 to have them lined up just like this. And that would be first by slicing down and then we would turn the front. Now we can turn this either way due to the fact that these are just the outer edges. And then we can bring these two down here, turn the front back, bring this back up, turn the front back again, fix our centers, and then readjust the front layer, just like that. Now the other way of doing it is instead of just doing it like this, there is a second way of solving this. Now, unlike the other example in the faster method, this one actually does technically work. It's when you start off with holding it in this position. Now, just a reminder, if you have a full bar or something like that, there's a lot of ways how you want to avoid doing this, but if this is the outer pieces, this is going to actually be okay. With your own experimenting, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. I don't really have an easy way of explaining this, so just follow along here in this example. So these two are lined up here, and then we can slice these two down. This is, of course, the other way of explaining the other case that I showed you. You can do whichever one you prefer. Then you can turn the front so that you can line this down here. And now these are your new pieces that are going to be replacing these bars. That way when you slice these two up, it solves this bar, turn the front back, and then solve the centers just like that. So it's basically the same idea except working backwards in order to solve the exact same case. Another thing, of course, you can have is something like this where you have these two and these two. Now, what generally you're going to want to do for this case is you're going to want to line them up where they're facing down like this. Generally, when having in one bar of a line, you're going to want to have it in this form of way. And then from here, you would just bring this side down, turn the front, and then bring these layers down just like this. Then we would want to turn the front back, bring this side up to rebuild our bars, turn the front back, rebuild our centers, turn the front back, and then fix our top, just like that. Now, once again, of course, you can solve the other example. How I did before for this is by solving it by holding it in this position here, and then you would turn these layers down, just like this, turn the front back. Now, this way, it does matter which way you turn the front, because if you're gonna solve this, you're gonna be bringing a different bar down, and you wanna bring the white side down, and that would be this one over here. So like that, turn the front back, bring these up, turn the front back, and then fix our centers just like that. Once again, if I'm going too fast, this is a more of an advanced method after the other two tutorials that I've already taught. So if you need the beginner's methods, you can always go back and look at those. This method is, of course, if I am still going fast after you already seeing those, then you're probably not ready for this because you need to experiment a little bit more with commutators and understand the method of which moves you need to turn in order to solve them. Now time for this example here. This is when multi-commutators start to kind of fail. And here's why. These two pieces here cannot be swapped with these two here using a multi-commutator. For instance, if you were to bring this down, you would have to solve this by doing single pieces at a time. Mainly because there's no way you can bring two down at once with this bar right here. So as annoying as this is, you do have to do each commutator by themselves separately in order to solve a case like this. So for instance, you would need to bring this side down, turn the front back, solve this side, piece right here, and then you would need to solve this pair right here. There you go. So simply put, using any form of corner pieces for multi-commutators is not really going to work. So we can't really make use of these corner pieces or these outer corner pieces. So the inner or the outer is going to affect your multi-commutators. Because you can't do double with these by bringing down. That's just one thing that's going to probably annoy you by quite a bit, but it's something you really have to deal with. Now, like I was mentioning, you cannot use anything with these corners. So anything with these ones or even these outer ones. So like say you have this edge right here, this inner corner, this inner corner, and this edge right here. You can't do any form of multi-commutator due to the fact that these two corners are going to mess things up. So keep that in mind when solving multi-commutators. Otherwise, experimenting with them is really going to take you all over the place. I was going to do a demonstration, but I really cannot find an easy way of setting this case up due to the fact that it easily messes everything up. So that's kind of just an example of why I would not recommend trying to find any way of using these, because it's really not possible with multi-commutators, and I really don't even know a way of setting it up. So anything with these inner corners together with the any outer edges, like creating one bar, that's what I'm referring to. So Inner corners you can't do with multi-commutators or any of these outer. So you can do outer edges, inner edges, but that's it. I'll create a highlight example of what you can and can't do for 7x7 just as an example. Now that's everything in regards to 7x7. There's a lot more I could touch on, but it's pretty straightforward from here due to the fact I know you guys can have an understanding for what you should and should not do. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on to 6x6. For 6x6, it's pretty much going to work the same way. If you're using something with these inner corners, it's better to use the faster commutator method that I taught before. And if you're using something with these outer commutators, like with these outer corners, you're also going to want to use the faster method that I taught before. But if it's these edges right here, all these here, then you can use multi-commutator method. Multi-commutator is technically better for larger cubes as long as if you're avoiding any of the corner pieces. So let's go ahead and do an example. So really, here's one of the only fewest examples that I can do for demonstrating for multi-commutators on 6x6 is when you have something like this. In order to fix this, what you're going to want to do is you're going to turn them where you can match them like this, or you can turn them and solve them like this. Now I'm going to use this side just as demonstration. So you're going to turn this side down, turn the front, so then you can line these two down, just like this. Turn the front back, solve those, just like that. Pretty straightforward as long as you know what the inner layers to turn. And then of course the other example for this exact same case would be for solving it in this position, where then we could slice these two layers down like this, turn the front, bring this side down, turn the front back, bring these two up to solve this bar, and then bring the middle up just like that. So 6x6 is pretty straightforward. There's nothing too complicated about it outside of that. And then of course, then there's 5x5. Now there's really only one 5x5 example that you actually can even do on 5x5 for multi-commutators, and that is this one right here. And this case is pretty straightforward. All you're going to want to do is line them up, and I would recommend doing them actually in this way, because as silly as it sounds, it is actually easier to mess it up doing in this position. So I'm only going to be demonstrating using this one, and what you're going to want to do is bring the middle down, turn the front, bring the two sides down. Make sure you turn the front back the right way, the opposite way of what you did before. Bring the middle back up, turn the front back the other way, bring the two bars up, and there you go. So that's 5x5. Now I will do a few examples of 9x9. So the first thing I want to real quick show you for 9x9 is this example right here. Now, I know this actually is not a way to solve multi-commutators for 9x9. So you're probably wondering, okay, why in the world are you actually showing me this? This is a representation for what corners you actually cannot use for 9x9. So any one of these three, that also falls on all four of these sides, on both faces, are not actually able to be used for multi-commutators. So if any of these are being used into those pairs, do not solve using those, as they can easily affect multi-commutators. That is, of course, if you're using two of them. So I'll do a real quick an example. On 7x7 it was better for me to explain. You can always go back to there when I did an example, but I'll do another demonstration for that with 9x9, and this does also apply for all the above. But all the regular basic edges, so like these two here, like those edges, I've already explained through 6x6 and 7x7, so this should be straightforward, and I don't think I need to bother explaining how to do those. So let's start with this example right here. It's when we have these pieces all here. Now, obviously, I actually have one of the pieces, one of these corner pieces that I should not be using with multi-commutators. But I can use this only because the one respective to it or none of the other ones am I going to actually be solving with this case. If you are only using one, it is okay, but more than one, you do not want to have to use. So let's go ahead and then solve this case by lining them up. We'll use this as an example. I won't demonstrate the other one, as I assume it should be straightforward for you by now. And that should be by bringing these down, turning the front back, and then bringing this entire bar down, turning the front back again, rebuilding the bar, turning the front back, and then bringing this back up. Just like that. Just another basic random multi-commutator basic step for you to be able to learn is by using this. This is just another random 9x9 example, and we can line these up, set they're across down here with each other. Turn this side down, turn the front, bring these sides down, so that you create this bar here, turn the front back, bring the middle up to rebuild our bars, turn the front back, and then refix our centers, turn the front, and then turn the top, just like that. 9x9 should be pretty straightforward. The first two steps that I demonstrated with the 3 here and then the single dot demonstration, you really do need to keep in mind if you're going to actually end up using multi-commutators. If that is too confusing for you to understand, I know you'll be able to at least figure this out in your own experimenting with commutators. Whether or not this tutorial will actually be helpful for you is a different story. But try using that demonstration to actually figure out, especially for bigger cubes as you move on, because especially 9x9 and even 7x7 or 8x8, those corners, as when you go to the corner all the way until the center, on all 4 of the corner sides of each face, you want to try to avoid using and just using these edges for multi-commutators. So that is everything for this video. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down in the comment section and I'll try to get back to you. And yeah, if you found this video helpful, please remember to hit that like button down below and hit the subscribe button as well as those bell notifications to be notified when upcoming videos are released. So thank you all so much for watching and I'll see you all in my next video.